All right, welcome to day 2 of our summit review, getting ready for our STAR test on May 3rd. Today we're focusing on solving linear equations and solving systems of linear equations. All right, so some important definitions at the top. First of all, a solution is the value of a variable that makes an equation true. You can write that down at the top, pause this and write that down. Again, the solution of a solution of an equation is the value that makes an equation true. I'll give you another definition here in a second that you can write on in that space also, but first let's actually solve this. So first thing is we got to get rid of parentheses. So in front of the first set of parentheses there's an invisible 1, it's a negative 1. When you multiply that you get negative 6m minus 8. On the other side, we're going to distribute that 4. 4 times 17 is 68. 4 times negative m is negative 4m. Now, we have all the parentheses are gone, but I have an m on both sides. I got to make sure they're on the same side, so I'm going to move one of them. It doesn't matter which. I'm going to go ahead and move that negative 4m over. So right now it's 68 minus 4m. So the opposite of minus 4m would be plus 4m. When I do that, I get negative 2m minus 8 equals 68. Okay. Now, the next thing is, now that I got my, I'm going to go ahead and fix this real quick. Now that I got all my m's to one side, I got to start getting everything away from m. So the first thing is move any adding or subtracting. So I got to move that minus 8 by doing the opposite, which is adding 8. I get negative 2m equals 76. Last step, right now I am multiplying m by negative 2, so I need to divide m by negative 2. When I do that, I get m equals negative 38. Negative 38. So I would put 38 here, and it doesn't matter where you start. You could put 38 here and here. That would be fine. Since this is a negative, you got to make sure this has a negative box. If it's positive, you don't have to put anything there, but if it's negative, you have to put the negative. All right, now, another way to do this, our second definition of solution, the solution can also be the intersection of two lines. Well, how could I separate this into two different equations? Well, like what we did recently with another subject, if we split it at the equal sign, we can actually graph y equals negative 6m plus 8, and I can graph y equals 4 times 17 minus m. All right, so we're going to go ahead and graph both of those, but when I do, I'm not going to graph m's, I'm actually going to graph x's. So y equals negative 6x plus 8, y equals 4 times 17 minus x. Now, we're not going to see our graph, but that's okay because there's no error codes right now. So I'm just going to zoom out until I find it. There it is. Now, these kind of look parallel. They kind of look like they might be getting closer. So let's just keep zooming out. Okay, those are definitely getting closer. So we can go up here. They cross at that point. So negative 38 to 20. Now, the question is, which one of these is our number? Well, based on our answer over here, we know it's negative 38. Well, my original letter was m. And when I graphed it, I changed it to x, so it's the x value. So that's another way to do it, so you don't have to work so hard, so you can get those questions a little bit easier if you struggle. All right, let's keep moving here. All right, so this one's the same kind of way. So if you're doing it by hand, the first thing you would have to do is get rid of the parentheses. So when I multiply 1.25 times 4, and remember you can do that in Desmos if you struggle with that, you would get 6m. 12 times negative 10 is 1.25 times negative 10, I got ahead of myself here, is negative 12.5 equals 7.5. Then I would have to get my letter, everything away from my letter, so I would add 12.5 first. Sorry, I don't have much space here to write. Okay, I'm actually going to write it down here, plus 12.5. When I do that, I get 6m equals, that plus that is 20. Last step is I am going to, actually I did make a mistake here, and this is why you need to check your work. 1.25 times 4 is actually 5. So we're just going to go back and fix this real quick. So sorry about that. So then when I do this, we're actually going to divide by 5. This is always why you need to check your work, just in case. Divide by 5, and you get x equals 4. I don't know what is with me in this video, but it's okay. All right, so that's our answer. This should be an x. That should be an x. I fixed that going backward. You don't have to fix it in your notes. Just hopefully you kind of understand what we did here, and we'll go over it in class if you have any questions. So the answer is 4, which is D. Now, there's another way to do this. You can also just graph again. Y equals the left side, which is 1.25 times 4x minus 10. Graph the right side, y equals 7.5. Again, I'm going to see where these two lines cross. They cross right there. My original letter was x, so my answer should... Oh, I forgot the 4. There we go. The answer is 4 right there. It's the first number, 4. All right, so if you have any questions on that, we'll definitely go slower in class since I made 1 or 2 mistakes on this problem. So ask any questions, but the main thing is distribute this, move everything away from x, and then you get your answer, or you can just graph y equals that side, y equals that side. All right, so the next part, so we're done with that page of the notes. The next part is solving systems of linear equations. Again, this vocab is going to be the same to where the system of equations is 2 or more equations. When you solve them, it's going to be the intersection. It's going to be the value that makes them both true at the same point. So there's a couple ways to do this. You can do this by hand with substitution. However, that is a lot of work. The way we kind of focused on, and there's a really easy way to do this in a calculator, but I'll have to show you that in class. How you can do this with Desmos is try to get it to where you have an isolated variable for both equations. So if you look, the second one right now can graph in Desmos. If I type that in, x equals negative 2y plus 9, this will graph. The first one, if we try that, it will not graph. So what I actually need to do is I need to manipulate it a little bit, and I need to either get this as x equals or y equals. If you were to do this as x equals, the first thing you would do is move over the x by subtracting x. And you don't have to move x. You could move y and be done, but let's keep it as y equals. Okay, we can't combine those, so we're going to leave them separate. Okay, and then in order to get rid of that 6, you would divide both sides by 6, the whole thing. So what you'd end up getting is y equals, and you can leave it like that if you want when you plug it in, or it'd be negative 1/6 x when you divide those two. Okay, negative 59 divided by 6. Negative 59 divided by 6, I don't believe simplifies. No, it does not, so I'm just going to leave it as negative 59 over 6. And I'm going to put that in Desmos as the second equation. So y equals negative 1 divided by 6 x minus 59 over 6. And I'm going to see where they cross. They cross right there at 43 comma negative 17. Now the question is what is the value of y in the solution? Well, y is negative 17, so G is the answer. Now, again, that's one way to do it. You can also do it in the calculator or do it by hand. I can show you by hand in class, but just save some time. We're going to focus on this skill, just manipulating. If you can do this, your STAR test will get a lot easier if you can solve for x or solve for y. All right, I believe this is, I guess there's 2 more here. So, what is the value of x in the solution of this equation? And actually, we're not going to do that last one, but all right, so the second one is good to go, so I can go ahead and graph that. So I'm going to graph y equals negative 5x plus 32. I hit home, there's my graph. The second one, the first one, we need to solve for x or solve for y. Again, I'm just going to solve for, doesn't matter what you solve for, you can move the 3x over again, or you can move the y term over. Let's just keep it consistent, so let's solve for x. So we get rid of that positive 3x by subtracting 3x. I'm going to solve for y, so negative 5y equals negative 3x plus 22. Then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 5, and I get y equals 3/5 x. 22 divided by negative 5 is negative 22/5. It is not going to simplify. 22/5 is, you can write 4.4, but we'll leave it as the fraction 22/5. So I'm going to write my equation. Y equals 3/5 x minus 22/5. My intersection is right here, right at that point. I can zoom in to make sure I don't accidentally hit the wrong one. 6.5, negative 0.5. It's asking for the x value, so the answer is positive 6.5. And I'm done. All right. If you have any questions on that, please let me know. Again, we'll go over it. I'm also going to show you how to do this in the calculator with System Solver, which is a fair thing you can use on your STAR test. So make sure you watched the video, you took notes, and I will see you on Wednesday after your STAR test.